Hi everyone, welcome back to the best recapped movie. At the movie's beginning, Michael Atwood and his two criminal crew, Russell and his brother Gabe, both ex-cops, discuss their plan to rob a bank. They are going to steal a safe deposit box in the bank, the information contained in which can invalidate the crimes of a Russian mafia named Vasily, who was recently imprisoned. In Vasily's absence, they now take orders from his wife, Irina. Michael says that the robbery must be done in 3 minutes, so they add two more corrupt cops named Marcos and Franco, an FBI agent, to their team. Michael and his team prepare themselves to start the robbery operation, put on their masks, and arm themselves. At the same time, it is evident that Irina brutally treats the people who betrayed her and never shows mercy to them. A police detective named Chris Allen prepares himself for duty and says goodbye to his wife Michelle and their son before leaving home. Upon reaching the bank, the robbers enter, and Russell waits outside to inform them of the presence of the police as a backup. The guards are knocked out one by the robbers. After some aerial shot and scaring the people, they convince the bank manager to cooperate with them by showing the photos of his family. He takes them to the safe deposit box room so his family is not in danger. Russell warns that they only have 3 minutes, so they quickly steal the safe and some cash from the bank and are very happy they can perform this operation according to the plan. It doesn't take long until a smoker explodes in the stolen bag. The red smoke becomes so much that it disturbs the driver, causing the operation to face problems. Russell informs that he is behind the traffic and no more help comes from him, so Michael, along with Marcus, Franco and Gabe, shoots and scares people to make them retreat. They steal a new car and destroy the previous car with an explosion. Ultimately, they manage to survive this operation in any possible way. After reaching a safe place, Marcos and Franco blame Gabe for taking the money and the story of red smoke spreading, and Franco, after pulling out his gun, threatens Gabe with death. Michael warns him to never pull a gun again and promises that he will inform them in 3 days to receive a great salary. Then they blow up the stolen van so that there is no trace of them and leave. Russell warns his brother Gabe to refrain from doing such useless things because he might get killed and says Michael is angry with him. Michael and he delivered the backpack containing the box to Irina's people. Jeffrey Allen, the detective and the person in charge of the bank robbery case, and his people Joshua and Trina investigate the crime scene. The bank manager tells him he was forced to do this under pressure and because of threats from his family. Chris, who turns out to be Jeffrey's niece, enters the office as a rookie cop. He and his colleagues are informed of the bank robbery and that the robbers spoke in Spanish. Marcus, who was involved in the robbery, tries to hide the red smoke marks on his pants, and on the other hand, he is informed that from now on, he and Chris will have to work together as partners in a team. It is clear from Marcus's behavior that he dislikes working with him. Michael goes to receive his salary and see his son, and after a body search by her men, he meets Irina. He hugs his son Felix, and a little later, she explains that she has to delay the payment because she has a second job for him. Still, Michael is not interested in working with her again. Elena, Irina's sister, appears and turns out to be Michael's wife. He learns she has been meeting corrupt FBI agents. Irina calls her husband and informs him that Michael does not want to accept the second job. Vasily emphasizes that the information in that box is useless without the files in the DHS building. He explains that the second robbery will only guarantee his freedom, so he asks his wife to threaten Michael into doing it. Michael calls Russell and says there is a problem and they should see each other. Still, as soon as Russell gets in the car, suddenly Irina's henchmen pull a nylon on his head from behind and torture him. Michael meets the group and informs them they did not pay the money and wanted to do something else for them. Gabe says they are playing you, and Franco gets angry and blames him for getting them involved in this story. Michael warns them they are involved right now because he sees they work with FBI agents. Suddenly, they see Russell's car slowly hitting the wall and realize that something has happened, so Michael quickly reaches him and realizes that he was tortured so much that he was dying. He decides to get rid of him from this suffering, so he shoots him in the head. After this incident, he calls his wife, Elena, but neither she nor her sister will answer. At the end of the workday, Jeffrey, who is drunk, examines the crime scenes with Trina. He believes that the reason they speak Spanish is ridiculous. It is clear from their professionalism that some of them are in the army. Michael informs the group about the second robbery, in which they were asked to break into a secret building in the National Security Organization. Of course, the time will probably be 10 minutes. It is impossible to get saved in these 10 minutes, but on the other hand, they know that if they don't do this, they will be killed. Franco suggests that they can make the police announce 999, in which case a police officer is killed.
That's not such a bad idea.
Buy you 10 minutes.
Gabe disagrees, and Marcus and Michael think. The next day, Chris and Marcus arrive at a crime scene to work on a suspicious murder case and find that the killer has horribly beheaded 3 people. Franco also shows up as an FBI detective for further investigation. Chris goes to the local residence to find a witness to find clues about the killer. He asks a group of gangsters who are standing there watching the murder that happened. Still, their boss, Luis Pinto, acts angry and believes he will blame this crime on them, but Chris says, "I want to ask a few questions." An argument arises, and he insults Chris, so he handcuffs him, and Marcus goes to calm down the situation. Then, Marcus takes him to a corner and warns him that he shouldn't treat them like that and cause chaos because this is a street, not a school. After arguing, Chris believes he has been doing his job and asks him not to interfere. The group gathers again, and Franco explains to Michael about 999 so that when a policeman is killed, all the forces go to the scene of the accident, and only in this way can they buy 10 minutes. Gabe and Michael go to bury Russell, and Marcus is clear from his behavior that he is unsatisfied with this. He says that he wishes there was another solution. Franco offers to kill Chris, who is a rookie policeman, and tells him that if he can't do it, he can handle it himself. He says he has no problem with killing a policeman. Jeffrey goes to a bar with his niece, Chris, and while he is very drunk, he informs Chris about the bank robbery, which may be much bigger than they thought. Later, he is so drunk that his actions force Chris to forcefully sit him down. After seeing Felix, Michael asks his wife Elena why Irina doesn't answer his calls and convinces her to consider this issue. The next day, he and Felix go to see Irina, and after a body search, he is allowed to see her. Then, he explains to her that they found a way to carry out this robbery.
This is fantastic news.
Michelle realizes from Chris's behavior that he is a bit upset, so she approaches him, kisses him, and tries to give him confidence with her words. On the other hand, Michael, in a meeting with his team, with Franco's suggestion, comes to the conclusion that the best option to kill is Chris. A little later, it becomes clear that Gabe is against this and tells Mike that if Russell was alive, he would never have done this. Since Michael has no choice, he gets angry with his words, shouts, and asks him to leave the car. The next day, Marcus tries to be more friendly with Chris and explains that he should see his locale informant to get information. Chris talks to a teenage gangster to get a clue, but he avoids answering. Then Marcus shows up, and they leave. Jeffrey tries to track down the bank robbers through an informant and learns that he heard from a prostitute that her boyfriend revealed that they had just robbed a bank. He tells Jeffrey that this girl's name is Leah, and that she is a professional prostitute who sometimes dances for him indirectly. Chris and Marcus get information that the killer of the case of severed heads is a person named Fernando Rivera, so the police, led by Chris, storm his house to arrest him.
Three, go behind the door.
Close on left, I got it.
Since he is apparently a member of a gang led by Luis Pinto, a shootout between them and the local gangsters takes place violently until Fernando manages to shoot down him, and then escapes. Chris is saved by the bulletproof vest, and then Marcus chases him quickly. After finding him, he gets into a fight with him until Chris comes and kills him by shooting him in the head. Local residents are complaining about police cars and throwing paint on them. It seems Luis Pinto is behind all these incidents. On the other hand, the relationship between Chris and Marco seems to be a little better than before. Irina tells Michael they will send the information to the Israeli authorities after the robbery. She says Vasily will return after his release, and they become a family again. After that, during a call, Michael finds out that Elena went to Israel with their son, and it is clear that Irina intends to do this to pressure him to commit this robbery. She gives him the information about the files that are supposed to be stolen from the National Security Organization. She emphasizes that she is the one who decides when Felix returns from the trip. The police officers are having fun at a dance club when suddenly Gabe shows up to see Marcus. Marcus angrily pushes him away and punishes him outside, warning him that if he comes near him again, he will kill him. At the same time, Gabe tries to dissuade him from killing Chris and creating a 999 situation. Chris comes out to see what's happening, and Marcus tells him he's just a piece of shit who used to inform him. After that, Gabe argues with his girlfriend, Leah, and asks her to go home while Jeffrey watches him and his activities with a camera. The next morning, Trina informs him that he has already served on the police force for 3 years. Finally, he was fired for attempted suicide and suspicious shootings. He arrests Leah while buying drugs to make her talk. At the same time, he is informed that Gabe is being chased to Highland Park, where Chris's house, so Jeffrey becomes suspicious and immediately orders his arrest. Gabe tries to meet up with Chris to inform him of what is about to happen to him but runs away after hearing police sirens. Jeffrey immediately arrives there and informs Chris about him. He says that maybe he came to see you. Joshua then calls Jeffrey and says that Gabe's brother, Russell, and someone named Michael, who was a former contractor for a private security company, were being prosecuted for smuggling weapons for a Russian Jew named Vasily. He says that because they were not found, their case is closed. Franco calls Michael and warns him that the police have obtained information about Gabe and asks him to do something about him. Therefore, Michael threatens Gabe by kidnapping Leah. He promises to disappear for a while, and Michael refuses to kill her. Desperate to find clues about Gabe, Michael or Irina's questioning, Jeffrey angrily yells at his men to work more on the case. There is no way left but for Michael, Marcos, and Franco to do it as a trio, but it seems Marcos is hesitant. The next morning, he takes Chris to an abandoned building under the pretext of receiving information from an informant. When they enter the building, Marcus disappears. At the same time, Franco and Michael are waiting to jump in with the announcement of 999's status. Chris starts looking for Marcus by calling him on wireless. Still, he doesn't answer, and it's clear from his behavior that he has a guilty conscience because a policeman is going to be killed. It seems that the person who is going to kill Chris is Pinto, and he is hiding in a corner to shoot him as soon as he sees him. He continues on his way. Suddenly, to his surprise, he sees Gabe in front of him and asks him to drop his gun, but he repeats that he is the target. Suddenly, Pinto shoots from behind, but a stray bullet hits Gabe in the neck. Chris calls out to Marcus and tries to stop the bleeding.
Marcus! Hey, Marcus!
Marcus appears, and he asks him to call sooner. Suddenly, he and Gabe shoot each other, and Chris, who is unaware of everything, also shoots Gabe. Gabe is killed, and Marcus is shot in the head, so Chris immediately announces the 999 situation. Upon hearing it, Franco and Michael immediately jump into action and knock out the guards one after another with electric shocks. On the other hand, Jeffrey, who realizes that 999 is related to Chris, moves. By tying an explosive bomb to the body of the guards and blowing up one of them's legs, Mike forces them to open the safe deposit box, but one of them cries that they don't have the key. Michael is forced to penetrate there with an explosion. He finds the suitcase containing the information needed to free Vasily. At the same time, when all the police forces of the city go to the place of the accident, they are informed that it was stolen from the National Security Organization and the police forces are in a mess. A group of police find their way to the secret DHS building by any means possible and encounter Franco and Michael, who are escaping from there. They take some guards hostage so they can get into the van, but as soon as they leave, a shootout happens between them and the police, as a result of which both Michael and Franco are shot. Michael's hand is injured, and Franco seems to be not doing well. Franco goes to the scene of the crime anyway to make everything seem normal. Chris explains the whole story in the meeting with Jeffrey and says he witnessed his fight with Marcus last week, and introduced him as his informant. Michael goes with a gift for his son to deliver the files to Irina, and after the body search, they meet. Michael says that all his men are killed. He handed over the bag, and according to their agreement, she ordered the bag containing his salary to be put in front of him. Still, she refuses to give his son Felix back to him. Michael is beaten by her henchmen, and Irina says that she should definitely kill him. But she is sure her sister will never forgive her, so she asks him not to look for Felix. She accepts Michael's gift as his farewell to his son, and after they leave, Michael gets up from the ground and returns to his car. It turns out that the toy contains an explosive bomb, and Michael blows it up with a lot of anger, destroying the car and its passengers. After passing the car, he makes sure that there is no trace of Irina left, and then he calls Franco to share the money with him. When asked about Marcus, Franco explains that he is still breathing. He says he gets rid of him, just as he killed Gabe's girlfriend, Leah. Suddenly, he kills Michael and takes the money from his car. On the other hand, after the shooting incident, Marcus is in a coma, and Chris is also informed that one of the FBI teams killed Pinto, and there are no clues left. However, by searching through Pinto's remaining belongings in his wallet, he finds the address where Marcus took him and becomes suspicious about it. The following day, he decides to interrogate one of the local gangsters. Chris threatens to tell him what he wants, otherwise, he will be arrested for carrying a weapon. Then, he reveals that Marcos went there on the morning of the shooting and met with Pinto. He is sure that Marcos asked Pinto to kill him. He talks to Jeffrey about this, and they are confident that Marcus is involved in this process. They conclude that a fourth person is probably looking to destroy all the clues. Chris goes to the hospital to see Marcus find answers to his questions. Suddenly, Franco appears and asks him to go with him to the police station to complete the statement. When they enter the elevator, Jeffrey calls him. He says that according to the information he received, the fourth person is Franco Rodriguez. Marcus tries to act so as not to arouse his suspicion. He puts his gun on standby, and when he gets out of the elevator, he tells Chris that his car is over there and he will see him at the station. Franco gets into his car, sees that Jeffrey is behind him, and prepares his gun to shoot. At the movie's end, Chris is sure that his uncle is in the car and is shot, so he announces the status of 999. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.